Hello beauties, I am here to tell you about Codex. So I'm standing in front of the original art of Codex. It is a 10 by 4 foot painting that I did. It was originally a tabletop. I did this, it was a year-long painting process that I did with my teacher Shiloh Sophia and other Color of Woman teachers. And it was amazing. It was one of my favorite classes that I've ever taken. This class was about arranging your soul so that your creations can flow through you. At least that was what it was about for me. And finding what your codex is. And what was born through this was an image of a muse-like figure that is half animal, which is this right here. You can see like there's cellular looking soma coming in, and it's meeting another image that is star-like. It's got sparkly, it's just full of glimmer, and it's very star-like, very ethereal. And these two images coming together and joining to create the constellations of my being. This work of art was all about incorporating all aspects of me. All aspects, and that even includes the tear in my heart, the tears in my heart. But all aspects, and there's a compass inside of this heart. I wish I could, it's hard, I can't turn the light on because it's very glittery and very glary, but here, I'll put this here. There's a compass inside of the heart, and there's little tears just to honor the fact that life isn't easy. And it's not painless. There are things that happen to us that that change us, and it's part of who we are. It's woven into the fabric of our being, just like all the light and just like all the brightness. So it's honoring both the light and the darkness of life and that paradox, and learning how to walk the line, which really is what this is, this line here. Learning how to walk. See, there's a lot of glare. Learning how to walk the line of that paradox and be in balance with it. And then learning how to make offerings, which is, this represents the watery flow of emotion. And this represents, these are flowers up here. And it represents the fruition of our dreams of structure and form that comes from this alignment. So there's a lot in this painting. And what came out of this painting that was so profound for me with this process were these constellations. So there are 3 constellations here. So this just kind of came to me when I was doing this process. There are 3 constellations, and they build upon one another. So here is a triangle, and this triangle appears in the chrysalis. This triangular matrix of energy appears in other paintings that I've done. It's in the under paintings of the archetype of my other archetypes. And then this triangle is meant to represent conscious connection, which is the first level of all of my teachings for my coaching, is conscious connection, teaching people how to connect to these inner parts of themselves every day so that they can learn how to be guided by their own intuition and they can become their own North Stars. Of course, we need help, but if we don't have that connection, it seems, for me, I'm still a little bit lost. So if I turn away from that connection, or if I'm not fully there, it doesn't matter how much advice I get, doesn't matter how much guidance I get, the results still of healing and just transformation don't happen in the same way. So this is my first level, is conscious connection, is me giving people easy practices that they can do every day so that they can stay connected to that inner well of magic inside of them. This is the second constellation that came, and it is called Bloom Into You. And that is all about when we're consciously connected and we create from that place, we begin to bloom from the inside out, just like a flower blooms. And so that's its own constellation. It's the second level of my teachings, which is really creating your own archetypal painting. Or creating a work of art. It doesn't have to be a painting, but your own creation based on that connected, unique energy that you have inside of you. And then the final constellation is that of the dancing priestess. This is where there's a figure down and below here that is dancing. I don't know if you can see her, and she's sending light and energy. She's holding it in the palm of her hand. She's holding it, as you can see here. She's holding it, but she's also releasing it out into the world. So the dancing priestess is all about embodiment. It's all about embodying this energy and really letting it flow through you to a point where it is in all of your cells and it embodies you, and you don't become your creations. You know the difference between yourself and your creations, just like if you have, you know that you can't control your creations, that they freely flow through you and are released out into the world with no effort. And you understand the flow and you let it shine through. And this is flowing in its cycle where it flows through people and then it comes back to you. And it's a replenishing cycle. And the dancing priestess is really that can stand, it's standing in your power and knowing and being aware of these cycles and surrendering to them and being able to still remain an open vessel for the energy to come back to you in these cycles of your creations and still flow through you and then flow out again. So that's the dancing priestess. That's the constellation of the dancing priestess. Okay, so I'm going to, now that I've explained all of that, I'm going to share with you the voice of Codex. Codex speaks. I am the energy of arrangement, a constellation of stars that convened the day you were born and filled you with patterns of light. This light rests gently in the spaces between your atoms and cells, twinkling and shining through the skin you live in, revealing your star codes. Your constellations are ever-changing and rearranging with the life you live and shine through the creations you give. I am here to help your psyche shine bright while having clear sight of where you end and the light of your creations begin, and to understand the flow therein. Always know you are part animal, part star, created in this world and meant to shine bright as an individual who lends its light to the greater constellations of humanity's manifestations. So Codex is wonderful for anyone who is working on a body of work and trying to figure out who they are in those creations. It's wonderful for anyone who's giving birth. This is about literal birth, not rebirth, but literal birth. And it's very similar if you're birthing creations and birthing children. The process, no, it's also very different. But what is the same, what's similar, is that your children come through you, right? You make them and your whole body is involved in that process, and it's a hefty process. But your body just knows what to do with it. It's a natural process. But after you give birth, you can't control your children. You're not your children, and they're not you. They're their own beings, and they're meant to go off and do their own things. And the same with our creations. The energy that we release into our creations is meant to have and flow through other people have its own form and flow through other people in its own way. And the challenge is to sit back and let that happen without controlling it. So if you're in a process where you're making a big body of work and you're trying to figure out where you end in the process and where your work begins, then Codex. Codex is the archetype that can help you. Okay, so how to apply these energies to your movement practice? What I love to do with the Codex mat is say this mantra: I let my light shine bright. I'll show you here. That is the movement mantra. I let my light shine bright. I use this mat when I used it today in my yoga class because I knew that I was going to be making these videos. I use this mat whenever I'm about to create something, when I'm creating content, when I'm creating my courses, when I'm creating art. And it helps my body get aligned, and this light helps me connect to my higher power and let that light flow through me, flow through my body unhindered. So there is a linear energy to this that it starts here and it flows this way. It's flowing, and I look at that when I'm doing standing poses. I like to be right in the middle, right kind of over this space of where my heart is. And I like to do these standing poses all while visualizing myself, like when I'm extending, visualizing that light coming down and then flowing through me unhindered like air. There's a lot of space. All of the elements are in these archetypes, but the elements of air and space are very prevalent here. I envision that energy flowing through me and flowing through my creations in a way that air flows through the sky, completely unhindered by anything and with no resistance. And that combined with the vastness of space, where there's no limit to where the air can flow. It's vast. And then I look at the constellations on this mat. There are constellations here. And that helps me tap into my inner constellations, the constellations of arrangement. Because in order for there to be flow, and in order for something to flow freely and unhindered, there needs to be structure in place. There needs to be boundaries set up. And the more concrete that organization is with the boundaries, the more that flow is free to flow. So think about a room that's kind of set up with an intentional path to walk through. And then think about a room where there's just stuff on the floor in random places. It's harder to know how to get from point A to point B when you have all these things in place. And it's really easy when you see a hallway with nothing in it, right? That's the difference. And that's what this energy is here to help you do, is to release the obstacles to create a clear path where there is no resistance for your creative energy to flow and for you to get it from your higher powers, whatever that might be, and to allow yourself to be a vessel for that energy to flow through. So I think about this whenever I'm doing any kind of standing pose where the energies are going in different directions. It really helps me feel into the linear lines that I'm creating with my body, and it helps my muscles align and go in that way. So I picture white light just flowing straight here and straight down. And so that's what you can do as you're flowing through your sequence, is continually telling yourself, I let my light shine bright. And then let that light, envisioning it flowing from your crown down and through your body, unhindered. And see what happens. What happens with me is that the light comes in, gets really bright, and then it flows out. And when you're in these kind of bound poses, I can feel that light gaining strength and gaining momentum and glowing brighter. And then when I reset it, it flows out of me. So that's with yoga. With Pilates, I feel it with my breath. I feel that light going through my breath and going into all the spaces and aligning. My Pilates practice is a lot more about alignment and really filling into what me and my instructor call my dignity muscles. Really knowing how to use those muscles to stand tall, not only in my practice, but in my life. And so when I'm doing Pilates and doing the different movements, it's different. It's not like a flowing sequence of my yoga practice. It's more individual sequences. So with each individual sequence, I see how the breath can bring light and my muscles can release tension so that they can effortlessly hold my body up as other muscles are getting stronger. So I hope that helps with some different ways that you can use Codex. The big message with Codex is knowing how your creations flow through you, and that you are a vessel for your creations, knowing where you end and your creations begin, and beginning to just be able to hold space for that. So much love. Bye for now.